Michigan, people feel like they run the Big Ten now. They've won the Big Ten championship for 2 straight years in a row. And are they going to do it a third straight time?
If I had to put money, I would say yes. I think they're at least on paper the best team coming into the Big Ten this year. My record prediction for them was 11-1. The only game I had them losing was at Penn State because I think Penn State will be really good this year. Drew Aller is that dude. He's really, really good. He came in when Penn State was up like 40 on IU. I saw him play, and he was really good. He was impressive. So I think they'll lose at Penn State, but I think they'll beat Ohio State again because JJ McCarthy is in now his second year starting, and he's doing really well. Ohio State's got a first year starter, and it's going to be a home game for Michigan. And if Ohio State couldn't beat them last year with C.J. Stroud and all of them in a game at home, how are they going to beat them without C.J. Stroud in the game on the road? I'll give them this. They should be motivated as hell to win that game. I'll give them that. Ohio State, Ryan Day, they bet Ohio State players better be in the weight room. Bench just Michigan, Michigan, Michigan. That's all they got to think about this
And
year.
Michigan is overlooking them. Like, Michigan has a day in practice called Georgia Day where they just focus
Yeah,
on Georgia. How
that
disrespectful is that?
I don't really know how that came to be because I really don't. I heard about that. I do know what you're talking about. I don't know how that came to be. The thing is, though, is Michigan still hates Ohio State a ton. They'll still get up for that game.
But it's like
Come
they're
time.
not even. It's like when you talk about teams that have a chance to win it all, nobody even really mentions Michigan. Nobody really mentions Ohio State. And it's
Well,
so
I had
crazy
Ohio
because
State
Ohio
going
State
10
has a
two.
great team.
They have a great team, but they're not as good as they were last year, and they couldn't get it done last year. So that's why I think a lot of people are having a really hard time getting Ohio State to come around. I have Ohio State finishing 10-2. I think they lose to Notre Dame and Michigan.
Okay, how
I
about
think those are going to
this?
be two.
What if that Jim Knowles defense actually looks like the Jim Knowles defense that we saw at Oklahoma State? Because it was year one for him. If it improves and it's as
Yeah,
good as what it was at OK State, how different would you feel about Michigan being able to win the Big Ten?
I don't know. Like I said, if Ohio State beats Michigan, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be like, oh my god, what an upset. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But yeah, I don't know. If I had to put money on a team to win the Big Ten, I would put it on Michigan. Because I think they are the best team in the Big Ten. I think Penn State will. I think Penn State is a team that will give them a run. I have Penn State finishing 10-2. I have them losing at Ohio State. And I have them losing at Maryland. Maryland will be good this year. They are a sleeper team with Tulia Tagovailoa, Tua's little brother, in year I think 3 as a starter. Maryland will be good. Watch out for them. I think that ultimately spoils Penn State's chance. But you could have a situation where Ohio State beats Penn State beats Michigan, Michigan beats Ohio State. You have a three-way tie. I ultimately think Penn State. I think Penn State's definitely the worst of those three. That's not really. They're still a top 10 team, but I think at they play at Maryland right before they play home against Michigan. So that's why I think that'll be a trap game for them. But yeah, I think here's the thing. I think Michigan will win the Big Ten. I think they're the best team in the Big Ten. I still don't think they're good enough to make a national title. I don't think they're. I don't think you're beat Georgia. That's not happening. I don't. They can't beat Georgia. I don't think they're good enough to beat Georgia. Like I they're just not good. They're just not good enough. Like I don't think they're better than. I just don't think they're better than a lot of teams. Like I saw them last year when they played Indiana, they were tied 10-10 at halftime, and they were up 17-10 going into the fourth quarter. I thought IU was going to win that game for a second. I was like, they're going to mess around and win this game. They didn't. But they held it dangerously close. Michigan's still they're really good. I think they'll win the Big Ten with one loss. I don't think they're good enough to make a national title because they totally overlooked TCU in that game. Like,
Yeah,
the
like
game they lost TCU.
you could obviously tell.
They
But when I look at Michigan, though, they got a really good squad. But in these rivalry games, I really don't think talent is the end all be all. Ohio State,
I understand. I get where you're coming from.
I think that Ohio State is being a little bit overlooked by people because you look at their front seven, arguably the best. I won't say better than Michigan's because I think Michigan's defensive line development is on par with Georgia. They do a really good job at getting their defensive linemen into the league, especially their offensive line. Like, you can make the argument that either Michigan or Georgia are two of the best schools, or one of the others the best at, developing players in the trenches for the next level. But Ohio State has some real dogs on their front seven. JTT, who literally took over that Penn State game. Who's that linebacker? Tommy Eichenberg. You got
He's good.
Like, I think that if Ohio State's defense can improve, I don't know if Michigan wins the Big Ten for a third straight time. And the reason why I feel this way is because I'm not saying Michigan isn't a great team, but I have a really hard time seeing them beating Ohio State 3 straight. Do you know how crazy of a swing that would be? They went from dragging Michigan every single year to getting dragged by Michigan, and the plot twist years later, fam. And how much pressure would be on Ryan Day if they were to lose 3 straight would be monumental, especially if they don't make it to the college football playoffs. And it's crazy because
pressure's already on them after losing 2.
And this is somebody who has never lost more than 2 games in the season?
Yeah. Well, the thing is Michigan fans are very similar to the Notre Dame fans. For a while, they were like, we're going to win the national title. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then they lose to Ohio State. And I said, I'm like, I am never picking Michigan to beat Ohio State until they do it. Doesn't matter what their records are. I said, I'm not picking them to win it until they do it. And then they did it in the greatest game in Michigan football history, it seemed. And then they went out and did it again in a game I really didn't think they'd win. I thought Ohio State would beat them last year because the problem with Ohio State, here's what happened last year. Michigan's ground game was crazy because Blake Corum was one of the best running backs, but he got hurt. The thing is, Donovan Edwards, their backup running back, I think might be better. That guy's, I think he's better. But their ground game and offensive line was just so powerful to where Ohio State said, all right, we're putting everyone in the box. We're going to make J.J. McCarthy. If you're going to beat us, you're going to have to beat us over the top. And that secondary got cooked. I mean, they got flamed. I don't know how improved their secondary is, but it better be a lot improved because they were bad. In that game particularly, they were terrible.
Especially their safety play. Those tight ends that Michigan had, Luke Schoonmaker, and that other dude they have, I mean, they were eating on Lathan Ransom.
It was like their wide receiver, it was like one move, boom, they have like 20 yards of separation. So they better get that secondary figured out.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to say Michigan doesn't win it for a third straight time. I wouldn't
be totally shocked if that happened.
I think Ohio State's roster,
I don't think it's out of the question.
Yeah, like Ohio State, they do have questions when it comes to their offensive line. I think at their tackle spots. But I think that Ryan Day is so good offensively that I'm not too worried about it. And last year, I don't think Michigan went in there and just completely dominated Ohio State. It was a close game into the fourth quarter where, the screws just came on loose for Ohio State and they just completely fell apart. I think this year, losing 2 straight to Michigan has really forced Ohio State to make an identity change. I don't think, yes, they are going to be a team that is going to air you out. They do have the label of being more finesse than Michigan. But I really think that this year, with the fact that they have Travion Henderson coming back fully healthy, I think that this run game, I think that Ohio State is going to be a lot better, when it comes to matching Michigan's physicality this year. I think that Ohio State, after them getting out physical the previous 2 years. I think they're going to come in with a different mindset that they're just going to say, you remember when Jim Harbaugh, the year they beat Ohio State, he said, we either going to beat Ohio State or we're going to die trying. I really feel like that's what Ryan Day's mindset is, because there is so much riding on this game. And this game, I see why they call it the game, because the stakes are always so high. It's like, for you to get to the Big Ten championship, you got to win this game. And if you don't, you might not even get into the college football playoffs. And potentially one of these two teams might have a one loss to Penn State potentially. So the stakes will be even bigger.
It's the one thing for Ohio State gets Penn State at home, Michigan gets them on the road. I'll end with this though. They say college football is about X's and O's and Jimmies and Joes. Ryan Day, in the years he was winning a lot with Ohio State, never won a national title, but the years he was made the national title against Alabama, the years he was beating Michigan and making the playoff. Here's what you got to ask yourself. Ohio State, they were winning all those games because they had Jimmies and Joes. They just had so much better players. Pretty much every time, almost every time, Ryan Day has come across a team, a similar caliber team, he's struggling. Because think about this. I'll leave on this. The only real time that Ohio State has beaten a team with as good of talent as they have is when they beat Clemson in that semifinal during the COVID year. I would challenge you to find a game where Ryan Day has really outcoached his opponent. That was the one game he did it, was against Dabo Swinney and that Clemson team. And that was when Clemson had a lot of questions coming around.
I feel like he outcoached Kirby Smart in Georgia. I mean, they didn't win the game, but it came down to a minute.
They lost though.
They did, but I felt like that was.
He also had like a month to prepare for that game, and he also had a month to prepare for the what's it called?
For the game against Clemson.
But But other than that, find me a time where Ohio State has won a game because Ryan Day has really outcoached his opponent. I don't know if you can find it.
I mean,
and that's not to say that he's a bad coach, because he recruits like none other. That's not saying he's a bad coach. It's just, I don't know if like he's not as good, I feel like, as people think he is.